Alright, how to maximize your power. So we've discussed the will to power, its function in the master-slave morality. But now, how does one become the ultimate human? How does one become the Ubermensch? Ubermensch is German technically for the overman, but in slang use we call it Superman. But there is a process that one must go through in order to become an Ubermensch. But first you may want to ask, well, why do I want to become an Ubermensch to begin with? Well, the answer is simple. Ubermensches create new values. And when you create new values, you get people to follow those values. Pretty important, right? But here's how he starts it off. In Nietzsche's book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he wrote this philosophy as if he were writing a play, almost. The main character's name is Zarathustra. And in order to become an Ubermensch, one must take the first step. The first step is to announce, God is dead. I know, pretty bold, isn't it? But that don't take it literally. It doesn't mean that someone took out a gun and shot God. That's not what it means. The term God is dead, which is probably one of Nietzsche's most popular phrases, all it means is that values that come from on high, or come, as he says, otherworldly values, those values must be proclaimed as dead. Why? Because they don't originate from humanity. Alright? If humans enforce human laws, then it should be human values that we should subscribe to. Right? And in order to do that, Zarathustra says that God is dead. But once he announces that and rejects the herd mentality, the slave mentality, so to speak, once he rejects that, well, it's not enough. It's not enough. He's got to take it to the next level. And through age, through knowledge, through wisdom, through the passage of time, Zarathustra says that the Ubermensch must exhibit three qualities. He must have three qualities. That is, he must be part poet, part saint, and part philosopher. What he meant by being part poet is that you are creative. Alright? You've got to be creative. Because who are you going to follow? The guy that is kind of boring, mainstream, wears sweaters around their shoulders, that kind of cat? No dice. Not creative. Not creative enough. Because remember, the height of power is creativity. Alright? So that's how you got to be part poet. Then parts philosopher, because, well, once you're creative enough, you can then create a new philosophical value system that people will want to follow. People will want to follow, not that people must follow. Alright? The Ubermensch does not demand followers. The Ubermensch does not go out to seek to convert. The Ubermensch inspires. The Ubermensch does not, much like the Taoists, he does not intervene, he inspires. And that's how he's part saint, because those that wish to subscribe to those values will see the Ubermensch as a type of saint. Alright? So, like I said, very mechanistic, very step by step. Alright? But oddly enough, the Ubermensch, if exhibiting all three qualities, having a high will to power, just dismissing otherworldly values, is, as he writes, the Ubermensch is Caesar with the soul of Christ. All right. Now, Nietzsche was a great admirer of Jesus. He just did not like Christianity. To cite one of, I believe it comes from the book The Will to Power, the Villers who Mocked. He writes that Christianity died on the cross, which meant there was only one real Christian and he died on the cross. Everything else is a derivative of it, not created, because they're all deriving from the initial creative Christian, Jesus, obviously. Alright? So, the Ubermensch is Caesar with the soul of Christ. Now, what does that mean? Well, for instance, if you're an Ubermensch, and let's say you're confronted by an enemy, well, an Ubermensch will not turn his cheek to an enemy because he's not brutish, he's not violent. Rather, he won't turn his cheek to the enemies, but he will put his enemies in check because at the end of the day, he doesn't want to shame them. So he says that, to read specifically, for instance, he will not turn his cheek to his enemies, not because he is brutish, but because he does not want to shame them. He made the quotation, "The errors, the follies of great men are more admirable than the truths of small men." What does he mean by that? Well, we will soon discuss that in our upcoming discussion question. Remember that. The errors of great men are more admirable than the truths of little men, as in those with a low will to power. But nonetheless, the Ubermensch will also be a man of infinite pride and infinite delicacy, right? But nonetheless, once he has established this, once he has rejected otherworldly values and has exhibited that he's part poet, philosopher, and saint, well, now comes the responsibilities of an Ubermensch, which is to create a new value system. This new value system is based on this. This new value system that Nietzsche promotes is all about the love of this world and of this life. This is what we call a life affirming stance. He says you cannot gamble on afterlife insurance. He says you need to put all money in on this one, like all in on this life, because that's the only thing that we know for certain. All right. So you must be motivated by a love of this life. And so therein we can kind of see the ethics of Nietzsche, because if you do love and affirm life and everything that life has to offer, then why are you going to go around killing folks? That makes no sense. If you support and love life, then the last thing you're going to do is try to take it away from people. All right. Now, the next values we'll see in the next video, where we're getting to the good stuff.